Coming in hot on the Varla Eagle 1 Pro. Hello everybody, Ginger on Wheels here. I'm out riding the Varla Eagle 1 Pro. This is a big boy scooter for people that don't have a big boy budget. So let's ride it around a little bit and then I'll tell you what I think about it, what I like and what I don't like. Make sure to subscribe if you haven't already, and let's get ready to ride. Going around this track never gets old. So for starters, this thing is a 60 volt, 27 amp hour battery. It's got two 1000 watt motors, advertised top speed of 45. Let's see if we can test that real quick. Over this bump. Pretty stiff suspension. Looks like I'm getting a top speed of 39. So not quite 45, and we are on a slight downhill. Oh, there's 40. Anyway, I'm 225 pounds with gear, so I might not be the best example. Also pretty tall, 6'2"-ish. Not very aerodynamic at all. But the thing is surprisingly fun. So this scooter is about the same price as a VSET 10 Plus and a bigger battery. It's the size of the 10 Plus R battery. It does have a thumb throttle, as you can see here. The pickup on this thing is surprisingly smooth. It almost feels sine wave, but I doubt it is. I think it's pretty square wave. So as you can see probably, it's got a full color LCD there in the front, reading the speedo. The flashlight over there is a PEV firelight. And I know we're going 30 miles an hour in the road, but you can ride this thing with one hand, just like the Varla Pegasus, because it has really tight front steering bearings. And I think they advertise that as a built-in steering damper, and it does work to that effect. It just doesn't quite work like a steering damper. It's hard to describe until you feel it, but it doesn't get any easier to turn when you rock the scooter like a damper does. So it's pretty rigid. It takes some getting used to the turning for sure. As I'm sure you can tell by the pictures, this thing is basically like a ballooned up Varla Pegasus. They took the same design and I think they just like added 50% size to everything, threw a huge battery in it and called it good. And honestly, I feel like the design is more suited for this bigger type of scooter. The Pegasus doesn't really go that fast, so I'm not sure you need the built-in damper. It's more annoying than anything on that scooter, but on this type of road, at this speed, it does feel nice to have that extra security that the bars aren't gonna get speed wobbles. Oh, electric scooter for the win. Cha-ching! Getting my money's worth. Yeah, these bars just take some getting used to. The cornering just feels really weird. Let's get the bad stuff out of the way right out of the gate. So first thing I don't like about it is the steering feels a little weird at low speed. I'm not a huge fan of it at low speed. High speed is good though. I also don't like the fact that the frame feels somewhat flexible, which I'm not sure how I feel about that. I know it needs some flex or else parts will just snap under stress, but it feels like it might be too much. When I take corners, the disc brakes rub, so I think that means the front forks are flexing. I do like the smooth pickup and the thumb throttle. It does have full front and rear hydraulic brakes. Watch this. Very good brakes. It's got 11-inch street tires on it right now. It is capable of off-roading, it's just not the best. We could have some more grip. Suspension pretty rough off-road. Whoa, man, it is brisk today. One other weird thing about this scooter is that when you charge it to full, the charger's was at 67.2 volts or something. The battery readout only reads 91%. So, and that is my other complaint with it. The battery gauge is just not accurate at all. It has tons of voltage sag and the battery gauge has a really hard time telling you how much battery you actually have. Oh, it looks like there's a cyclist practicing on the track, so we'll have to come back here. Let me stop and show you around the cockpit of this thing real quick. All right, so these are the grips. They're like a rubbery foam, and no matter how much I tighten these, I can still move the grip a little bit, which kind of bugs me, because I do tend to torque on the grips pretty hard. It's got this plastic little, I don't know what you want to call this, interface that you can shift gears with. This is the plus button here and the minus button. It's got 3 speed modes, 1, 2, 3. The lights button does have a pretty decent headlight. I was surprised with that. Check this thing out. I think it's probably maybe 600 or 700 lumens if I had to take a guess. It's got the same folding design as the Pegasus and the same one as the Highboy Titan Pro. It's kind of loose. Make sure that's tightened up. This is your little safety pin here. Want to make sure that stays in. The display here, like I was showing you earlier, it's got full color LCD and it does have an NFC card reader. So when you turn the scooter off using this little deal over here, see the screen turns off, and then when you turn it on, it shows you this little NFC symbol, and you tap the card to there and the screen turns on. So you can keep the card in your pocket, lock the scooter up a little bit. I do recommend a heavy duty, like New York style chain bike lock if you're gonna leave it unattended. And this plastic throttle here, kind of wiggly right like this, but it does work. No complaints. It feels about the same quality as the one on the Wolf GT. Just not a huge fan of thumb throttles that move like this in the first place. I like the ones that move up and down like that, or the Ryan curve. I got to try that on someone's scooter at the Seattle Saturday night ride, and that thing was sweet. It's got the full hydraulic brakes like I was mentioning. It does have a rear foot plate too. It's got a flashing brake light. One other small complaint I have about this scooter is that there really isn't an easy way to pick it up. I instinctively kind of want to grab scooters from here when I pick them up, but if you do that, you'll break the taillight off, so that's no good. You kind of pick them up from the side, and it's kind of awkward to lift it. Maybe you hear that suspension creaking. Oh yeah, that's another thing. I was just expecting to go fast, but I'm not going fast anymore. Because when you turn the scooter off and turn it on, it automatically resets back to speed mode 1. So you're gonna have to flip it up every time. To switch between dual and single, you hold the plus button while the scooter stopped, and you'll see a little gear icon up there. So it's gone now, and there it is again. That means we're in dual motor mode. It took me a while to figure that one out. Had to bust out the manual and everything. Luckily though, it doesn't switch into single motor mode every time you turn it off. It stays in dual, so that's nice. The rear tire, the rear brake is actually on the right, so it's kind of hard to do drifties. Okay, maybe not too hard. That's one of my favorite things to do on scooters. As long as they don't have solid tires. If you go skidding around on a solid tire scooter, then you make it lumpy. Yeah, this Varla is pretty sweet. I can get used to this thing. Pretty bumpy ride on this hardcore grassy stuff. It's got some big potholes-like things in it. Also pretty heavy. I think it weighs 90 pounds if I remember correctly. Still got some good hill climbing power though. 60 volt system, 1000 watt motors. Not bad. Even though the battery gauge isn't terribly accurate, it does have pretty good range. I'm out riding around in the cold right now. Probably been about 10 miles or so, and we've got, what do we have? 68% battery left. The battery gauge is horribly inaccurate though while you're moving, so you gotta stop to read it because it fluctuates so much when you're riding. It does have two 1000 watt motors and goes about 40 miles an hour with me riding it. So that means it's about 5 or 6 miles an hour faster than the Varla Eagle 1. It's got nice wide 11-inch street tires on it, so we can do some off-roading, as you can see. I am glad they stiffened up the suspension a bit on this scooter over the Varla Eagle 1 because at higher speeds, loose suspension gets pretty sketchy, especially when you're cornering. But this feels pretty glued to the road at any speed. Cha-ching, scooter just paid for itself a little bit. I feel like every time I go by a stopped line of cars, I get like $5 money back for my purchase. And on sections like this, we can just straight up go faster than the cars. Oh yeah, nice cornering with this stiff suspension. Not great off-road, but it did come with street tires. You can do mild off-roading on this thing though. It's just really bumpy. It corners really well at high speed. That's like my favorite thing about it. Between the stiff suspension and the wide street tires and the built-in steering damper, this thing does corner really well at high speed. It feels extra stable. Oh yeah. Do not go 40 miles an hour on the bike path. That was a bad idea. This is how we cause accidents. I do like the fact that this scooter has full hydraulic disc brakes and that the discs are 160 millimeter. But I don't like the fact that if you do actually use them and stop really hard from top speed, it can warp the disc rotors and then they start making that scraping noise with every tire rotation. So I wish the rotors were a little higher quality. And my favorite thing about the scooter is definitely the cornering. It doesn't have amazing top speed, 40 miles an hour. VSET 10 Plus will do 44. That does have 1400 watt motors though, so it munches through the battery a lot faster. This only has 1000 watt motors. So is it really worth the extra 800 watts of output on the VSET 10 Plus to get 4 extra miles an hour? I don't know. Yeah, this thing is great at high speeds, no doubt. Like 35, 40 miles an hour, this thing is a nice cruiser. Low speed, that built-in damper thing takes some serious getting used to. Does not feel normal, feels pretty weird. So something I can mention while we're stopped here, if you push the power button, it'll show you your voltage. You have a tripometer, total miles on the scooter, then you can push it again to see your trip for this route. And that tripometer will reset every time you turn the scooter off. So when I was taking thumbnail pictures back there, my tripometer reset, kind of annoying. All right, this is the hill. Let us send it up this hill. It does slow down quite a bit though. The scooter wouldn't be excellent at off-roading in technical terrain. Not a lot of hill climbing power, surprisingly. Oops. Does this thing have a horn? No, no horn. Yeah, I guess that's one thing. The scooter doesn't have any horn. It's kind of weird. Just noticed that. went to go reach for it and went, wait, there's no button. So it looks like up this hill, pinned at full throttle, I got 30 miles an hour still. So about a 10-mile-an-hour slowdown. Also, the battery has sunk down from 50% down to 25% just from the voltage sag at high output here. So that's why you can only really check the battery gauge while the scooter is stopped, because it's got so much voltage sag that it's really hard to tell how much battery you actually have left. Oh yeah, we got the leaves this time of year. Leaves make it a lot harder. They are very good at hiding obstacles. Yeah, the stiff suspension and the built-in damper function, they don't do you any favors off-road. Not to mention we're running street tires, so. Did I mention the scooter is pretty heavy? I think it comes in at like 90 pounds. The battery is big and the motors are medium sized, so I imagine it has pretty good range at cruising speed. But when you're doing kind of hardcore rides like this, like I am right now in dual motor accelerating a lot, it munches through this battery really quickly. I don't know what kind of cells the battery's made up of, but if I had to guess, I'd say they're pretty cheap. Oh, wow. Unexpected little jump on the sidewalk there. This scooter is right in that sweet spot. See, one-handed riding, not too bad. The scooter is right in the sweet spot where it's like too slow to go in the actual road, but too fast for sidewalks. So I'm not sure where to ride. You have to choose if you want to make pedestrians uncomfortable or cars angry. You know what? I take back what I said about this scooter being all right for mild off-roading. I feel like a grassy part isn't very extreme, but the tall bars, super stiff suspension, and the built-in damper, it all just kind of adds up to an unenjoyable off-road ride. So I'm glad they seem like they committed to making this thing a street scooter. With the built-in damper, street tires, medium-sized motor, medium-sized battery. It's a good mid-range cruiser, no doubt about that. All right, so between the sturdy folding mechanism, the full-color LCD, the NFC readability, front and rear hydraulic brakes, and the decent power out of the motors, I think this is a good option for mid to high-speed cruising. I don't like the kickstand. I'm not a fan of how stiff the suspension is for off-roading, and I don't like the fact that the throttle doesn't have a very linear response once the scooter gets rolling. We got full front and rear hydraulic brakes though. It does have some pretty good fenders and a great headlight, so if you're looking for a big scooter without a big price tag, I think this is a really good option, but I don't think that you could expect to do any sort of hardcore or extreme long rides or off-roading on it. It's just a good mid-range scooter, and it's got a mid-range price too, but not to mention the Varla Black Friday sale is going on right now. They have a whole bunch of codes for the different scooters in their lineup, and they have really good discounts for combinations of scooters if you buy more than one, like up to $1,600 off. So I'll put the links for all the Black Friday sales in the description of the video if you want to check those out. And I think if you can get a good deal on this thing, like $2,100 or $2,000 or less, that's a really good option in its price category. So thanks for watching. That's all I've got on it today. I'll catch you guys for the next video.